Hello, you gorgeous people, and thank you for joining me for another episode of Heart Centered Conversations with me, Jane McDowell, the podcast where I talk to people who love books, who love reading them, and who have been inspired, had their perceptions shifted, and have been able to do great things in their life and their work because of it. Now, my wonderful guest today is a very great friend of mine, Jade Doig. So over to you, Jade. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Jane. Hello, everybody. Yes, I am Jade and I am a confidence coach. So it's all about bringing in the self love, the self belief to help you achieve your own dreams.
Awesome. Well, so tell me, which book have you brought along for us to chat about today, Jade?
Well, Jane, this marvelous book that totally changed my life. It just says it in the title. You are a badass, and I think you've got to say it like that as well, right? Instead of
Okay.
a bad ass.
A bad horse or a badass. I love that.
Which by Jen Sincero. So this is my book.
Cool. So tell me about the book. You said it's inspired you to do lots of things, changed your life,
Yes,
I think you said.
I
Well,
did.
tell us.
Okay, so I got this book in 2017, and lots of stuff had changed at that point in time for me. And I thought, right, I'm going to go to Waterstones. You know, when you get that feeling of like, I'm going to get a new book. And
Love that feeling.
this one just stood out for me. I don't know whether it's the colors. I love the wording. I was like, and I think the U was just like really prominent. I was like, right, yes, that's the book for me. And it was my first self-development book because essentially that is what it is. It's a self-help book.
Oh, yeah.
And it was the very first one I read. And from the word go, there was just that feeling of this person gets me. And I think that's what's really great about books is when you feel like you're really connected with the author. And bearing in mind, I should probably say as well, this was actually one of the first books that I'd actually read full stop. Well, not full stop completely. So it completely changed. I mean, it's led to, me to wanting to read more books. Um, but yeah, I got the book, went through chapter to chapter, and it speaks a lot about what's stopping us from stepping into our best version of ourselves, essentially.
Mm.
So it talks about all of the self-talk, the negative beliefs, and how you can start shifting that so you get more of what you want in your life.
So once you read it, what did that then inspire you to do, other than read more
So
books, which is great in itself?
yes. um, so a little while after, I'd say probably about 6 months after, I was working in this really crappy job that it just wasn't fulfilling. And I thought, right, there was lots of talk about trust in the flow, trust in the universe, and all of this. Um, so from that, I was like, right, what is it that I really want? Well, I wanted at the time, I wanted to teach more with dance and theatre and everything. So I dropped my days down to 3 days. I took a leap of faith, and I'd sent out this email to a variety of schools. And I think the day, if not the day after, of handing in my kind of, like dropping down to 3 days, I got these emails and calls saying, "Great, we would love you to come into our school and be and have this regular opportunity to teach these children." I was like, "Oh my God, this stuff works!" And it was incredible. And then that just started a momentum for me. That then from that point, I think it was in a couple of years later, um, I then met with a company, coaching company, Heart Centre Business, at one of
Mm,
their
who
events.
knew?
You may know them, um, in Brighton. And my kids there actually were not my personal children, other people's children, were performing at this event. And the two people who were representing, well, the owner, Karine and Anna, and the managing director of Hearts and Business were there giving a talk. And ended up chatting to them. They actually thought I was the AV lead, and I was like, "Oh no, I'm just playing some music for my kids to dance." And but um,
I
had
bet
this
they put you to
conversation.
work if they thought you were the AV lead.
I know. Me being me, I was like, "Oh right, yeah, I can help. Yeah, I can."
Love it.
And yeah, so then I ended up signing up to this 3-day event, and I walked away having invested some money, thinking, "Holy crap!" Like I didn't have enough money in the bank to cover. I was questioning everything. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I wonder if I can call up and get a refund." But then I went back to the book, and I kept flicking back, and there's lots about having to, talking about if you want to grow into that next step, find people that have done that, or find people that can help ask the right questions to be able to pull that out of you and direct you. So I was like, just go with it. And I went with it, got myself a coach, and I've been on that course, if you like, for a couple of years, which has then unfolded into me finding another inner passion of wanting to coach people myself, because I've seen the power um by doing, these little changes that we can do to be able to get so much more out of, our day and who we are.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's really inspiring, Jade. And I love the fact that, reading a book led you to let go of your crappy job, as you said, because that's something that so many of us get stuck in. And, I've been stuck in crappy jobs in the past before, and knowing that there is a way out of it if you choose to do that. Sometimes it's easier to stay in there and just take the money and, have a great
Yeah.
time when you're not at work, which usually means you're not having a good time when you're at work. Just think about myself. But it's great to know that, there is that possibility and we do have those choices and that you can change things. And so that you end up doing something that you're really passionate about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I cannot recommend enough. I think sometimes the self-help can have a bit of a funny label on it. Like, it's like, oh, we won't go to that section in the shop. But actually, I would say just give it a go. And if you're absolutely feeling that way, that's even more of a reason to give it a go and have a read and see, there's so many out there that kind of resonate with you personally. And I'm really grateful that I picked a book that absolutely, like, the language of it and everything
Yeah.
really resonated with me at that time.
Yeah. And so the author is a woman, right?
Yes, yeah, and she's got
Yeah.
a few books actually about that follow on from that, which are also really great. So yeah, it's very inspiring. And it's also very kind of it's a very natural. There's not kind of like, it's a very easy to read book. It's, there's not it's not like, I know I went on to one of my next books and it's like long words, everything's long words, have to really focus. But this, what I like about it is that you can just have it and flick through at any time and kind of then get that motivation and those sparks back that you originally had when you first read it.
Yeah, there's something quite special about a book that you can just pick up and open any page and get inspired by whatever you read, rather than, as you say, having to trawl through long, lengthy passages of sometimes something that's quite self-indulgent. Yeah, I'm mentioning no names of books because
No, of course.
everyone responds differently to books. So, you know,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
So once you got started on the book reading, where has it taken you with the books so far? And other than is it Jen? You said Jen Sincero.
Sincero. Yes.
Other than her, who have you read that has equally sparked your um, enthusiasm to read more and to
Gosh.
take more action?
So, yeah, good question. I'm trying to think if of a standing out author. I mean, I'm looking over at my bookshelf here right now that you can't quite see, but just imagine it. It's like Harry Potter with the ladder it hasn't got a ladder. I wish it had. But I think I mean, The Power of Habit I absolutely loved. And I think what was good about this book is that you can start going a bit more into detail of things. So like yeah, The Power of Habit by Charles, I can't pronounce his surname. Is it Duhigg? Duhigg? Maybe we'll go with that. Think and Grow Rich, which again for me that took me slightly longer
Say that
to
again,
read.
Jade. I lost the sound there. What was the name of it?
Think and Grow Rich.
Oh, Think and Grow Rich. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so it led me on this. Actually, it's all I read, if I'm honest. I read just self-help books, and I think what again is great about it is that it led me on that journey that now I do, I set myself a goal in the year of like how many books am I going to read.
Mhm.
Once upon a time that was one book, maybe one book over 2 years. Whereas now, last year it was 6 books and I read 6 books. And so this year it's 10 books.
Yeah,
And um,
yeah.
yeah, the one I'm reading at the moment is Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now.
Okay. So I'm really curious because for me, books have always been part of my life. As soon as I could read, I was reading anything and everything I could get my hands on. So I'm really curious, how come there weren't books in your life before you're a badass?
You know what? I've thought about this and I'm unsure because I remember, going way back primary school, I loved those books. I mean, granted, it was one word a page. Maybe that's why I loved them. Um, and then going into secondary school, I don't remember really reading, like sitting and really getting tucked into a book.
Yeah.
Um, and I guess, I mean, my parents don't really read. Um, yeah, in fact, they don't. My dad would always buy loads of books. Can't think of Reader's Digest. Do you remember Reader's Digest? I don't know if it's still going.
Yeah, I know of it.
Uh,
Yeah.
and would always get all these books. So we'd have this lovely bookshelf with all of these fantastic books. No one would read them.
Okay.
I think, yeah, which was really bizarre. I mean, I'd flick through. I was always quite active. So I think a lot of my spare time where maybe I would have read a book, I was dancing and prancing around and dressing up like a fairy. So perhaps that's why that shifted. Whereas when I started reading this and I was around 24, 25 when I read this particular book, it was the right time for me in my life where I really enjoyed sitting and having that time out.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, maybe I'm going to ask my parents, what happened? Why didn't I read many books?
Yeah,
Question.
I just, I always wonder if it's an education at school thing, or if it's a
Mm,
family nurture environment thing, or if it's just a personality thing. I mean, I know some people, well, I know one person in particular who said to me that they have never read a book in their adult life since they left school, and they're in their 40s now, and I find that really, really shocking. Not because I'm
mm,
judging, but I just can't imagine what my life would be without books, without all that knowledge and different perspectives and the stories, because I'm an avid reader of fiction as well as, help. So, yeah, all of those things, just, yeah, I find it really intriguing that
mm,
some people, I totally get that, there might not be. I know I was very privileged when I was growing up, or, had a really great education, and, I was bought books from a very early age. So they were always there for me. And yeah, yeah, I guess it's the same for other people who maybe they go out and they have a really outdoor life, and they can't imagine
mm.
how it must be for someone who doesn't have a really outdoor life and who sits and reads books and maybe watches the TV a lot.
Yeah, it is a really interesting point as to why and how that happens. And I do think a lot of that definitely is around environment and nurture because
Yeah.
schools can have a certain impact, can't they? I mean, I went to a state school that, yeah, we had the odd book in English, but it was never really something that really took my fancy.
Mm.
Um, I have, I do think as well, it went during that secondary school phase of attempting to read a book because of all of this self-talk stuff and this busy mind that I think I'd always had
Yeah.
until I started working on it. For me, opening a book and kind of I'd be just too distracted. Whereas,
Yeah.
yeah, so I think that probably had a lot to play on it as well. So it would take me literally a year to read a book
Yeah.
otherwise.
But and then on the other hand, you've had a career in dance and performing arts, so there must have been a level of concentration needed and focus
Mm,
needed to learn routines and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I wonder if it's just the way our minds choose to work, you know.
yeah, 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 definitely. I do think because I mean I can easily as well watch I love watching fiction, like watching fiction, but for some reason I find reading fiction uber challenging. But I've always been able to sit and watch a program and be like, oh, it's so good. And so yeah, perhaps I do think that there are different, our different minds are tailored in different ways, and we learn in different ways.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's that
Mm.
learning style, isn't it? That
Yeah,
there are various forms of learning style, which is why there's no one size fits all, is there? So yeah,
yeah.
hmm, really intriguing. So now that you've gone on this self-development journey, how has that helped you help other people in their lives or business or just in the world in general? You sort of see like a ripple effect from you having invested that time in yourself to grow yourself and how it's helped other people.
100%. I think the first part where you start recognizing it is how you are around your social groups and your friends. And initially, it was all about recognizing language and the things that I would say out loud or what other people would say, and then it become a conversation. And then, I found that then the more obviously you're talking about it, they then kind of go, oh, okay, actually, yeah, that's a really good point. I didn't realize maybe I'm this negative or whatever it might be. So then it led to lots and lots of conversation, and then, but even more so, I think from all the continuous internal work, and it is a continuous, right? I mean, it's a continuous journey.
Yeah,
um, is that now I can see ways that can help other people to quiet that voice and step into more of who they want to be, and not kind of put up all of these boundaries of, oh no, I could never do that, or oh yeah, that's just not me, or I was dealt the wrong cards and things like that. So yeah, from me being able to be in this and having these and taking action and reading more about this kind of thing, it's opened up lots of doors to be able to help other people see differently and see things from a different perspective.
yeah, awesome. And so, who in particular is it that you focus on helping in your own business?
So typically women, so I say typically, not exclusively men, um, 35 to 45, who are generally struggling with a job, like being stuck in a job that they hate, similar to
Yeah,
what we've spoken about really of
yeah,
our personal journeys.
yeah,
Um, so feeling stuck, which often then means that they're getting pissed more often than not, because it's a good way to suppress all of those thoughts and that feeling of like you're a failure. Um,
it's also
so
just a great escape, isn't it? Just
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah. And don't get me wrong, I love a glass of wine, but it's about recognizing that, are you doing it as an enjoyment, or are you doing it to kind of feel better about yourself and it, like you say, escape from something.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. Well, so what are you reading at the moment, Jade?
So I am still reading, yeah, The Power of Now.
Hmm.
Pointing over there, I forget you can't really see everything on Zoom, but it's just there, which is really good. It is, I can sense that it's taking me a lot longer to digest. It's one of those books where you read a page, you stare at some trees, and you digest what you've just read, and then you read the next page. but I
It's
like
always
that.
good to have an opportunity to stare at trees, I always think. But then,
Yeah,
that's
as a
me.
tree lover, Jane. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. I could stare at them all day long. Fortunately, I haven't found a way to monetize doing that. So, yeah.
I was thinking the same thing actually the other day, except for the monetizing. But I was thinking, God, I really just could just sit here all day. There were some beautiful trees. You could hear the birds tweeting. I said, this is just lovely. Which again is a great, use of time doing that, reading a book, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
you can absorb that as well, unlike
yeah,
sitting watching Netflix.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So the book you're reading now, is it like the title infers that it's about being present and in the moment, or is it about the time for action is now, or what?
Yeah, so it's this concept about there is no future and there is no past, essentially. And it's kind of it's working with the fact that you are this moment right here is what matters, and this is what's going to by being present and in this moment, nothing, there's no problem. And that's what's really interesting about this book, is that um that actually, like, a lot of our problems come from thinking about, oh God, I shouldn't have said that, or I should have done this, or I wish this didn't happen, or the other side of, oh God, what if I don't do that, or I've got this exam, or all of these worries about the future.
Yeah,
And so what Eckhart Tolle talks about is the fact that if you just recognize that you are, this is the moment here, there is no problem that is happening, and to embrace that present moment. So yeah, I'm halfway through. I definitely again would recommend, especially if you're kind of having those thoughts of feeling like, oh, you feel like you're here, there, and everywhere, and it's just a good way to kind of realize your time is now.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. It sounds like a
yeah,
great way to help people who are prone to anxiety as well, because anxiety is all brought about by your thoughts around the future, whether it's the near
yeah,
or and and that's what causes anxiety. So
yeah,
bringing yourself back to the now, it goes back to all those activities that people are encouraged to do that bring them into the moment rather
mhm,
than being able to think ahead. So anything you can do and get really engrossed in it, that you have to be present in, otherwise you might injure yourself or something. I don't know, like if you're carving a wooden spoon or something, you need to be there or no.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's
And
so
even
true.
even things that aren't dangerous, absorbing yourself in doing a painting or creating something or writing or whatever.
Yeah,
It's about being in that moment rather than focusing on what might happen and all those
yeah,
stories we always tell ourselves, which are ridiculous. And that, some people have much bigger stories that cause a lot more anxiety than other people, but we all do it to some extent.
yeah. And you hit the nail on the head. That's so right about the fact that we all do it, and yet sometimes we don't even recognize it. We just see it as almost this other, we give it importance, as if this really, this little voice or whatever it might be for you, and is actually a thing that we need to give credit. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, it's just grown on its own. We've just
Yeah.
grown that little voice. We have the power to choose to listen to that or not. um so yeah, and I think that's what, again, going back to this book, is really good, because Jen, she talks about that, and about how, if you're always kind of feeling down and sad, a lot of the time that's because we're very much in the past. And same if we're very anxious, we're very much in the future.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, oh gosh, yeah, I've spent so much time just, worrying about ex-boyfriends or whatever it might be. Sitting
Yeah.
on my bed as a teenager, like, oh.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah. But so many of us do, don't we? And like you
yeah,
say, there's nothing you can do to change the past. We can change our path for the future if we choose to. And yeah, so well, this has been a fantastic insight into your reading habits, Jade. And I'm so pleased that you have reading habits now.
yes.
Woo! So, I'm going to get all the details of the books that you've talked about, and I'm going to pop them in the details for this podcast so that people can look them up themselves. Yeah, I wish everyone who's listening and watching happy reading, and thank you so much, Jade. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I will see everyone in the next episode. Take care.
Thank you,
Bye.
Jane. Thank you. Bye.